Bonjour, mes amis. Today I'm showcasing my revision of the Pierre Madenie 1709 Dijon, France, Marseille tarot deck. And I've been looking forward to this for a while. These images are courtesy of the Swiss National Museum in Zurich. And without further ado, I'm going to flip the camera around and compare my color revisions of the Pierre Madenie deck with the typical colors of the Marseille deck. I'll be comparing it with the Nicholas Converse deck of 1761. Here's my deck on the right, and I'll be comparing that, as mentioned, with the Converse deck from 1761, a very famous deck here. And I'll be showing some of the colors side by side as we go along here. Now, at first, the backs of the images were originally a monochrome black and white. And I really like the backs of the Converse, so I kind of went along those lines with that sandy, kind of slightly orange sandy color. Cardstock on mine is about, I think, 110-pound cardstock. I printed this locally at a print shop, and check out my previous video. I'll put a link in the description how I did that on the cutting mat here and all that. But right now I'm just going to show you the images, how I've revised some of these colors here. I toned down the reds. On the original Marseille, its primary color is red, yellow, blue. That's pretty much what you get. And you can see I've toned down a lot of the reds. The reds and the yellows to me are just way too harsh. I do like the blues. And also, I went really light with it. I didn't fill these in digitally like so many decks are today, where they're just blasted with solid color and the whites or the backgrounds are just that bright white, like that white edge of the Converse deck. If you notice, I've kept that cream color all around, even the border. And as mentioned in my previous video about how I made these things with a corner rounder. And these are, sorry, these are 3mm rounded corners on the decks, and I did those all by hand. La Papace, the Priestess. I went with the kind of fun, light purple color scheme there, as opposed to the brilliant red. Some of the power cards, I would call them, like the Emperor and the Empress, I kept in the original color scheme of the primary colors. Again, just toning down the brilliance of the reds and the yellows there. I kind of associate those power colors with the traditional Marseille deck in some instances, just depending how the mood was. And the Pope card you can see here matches or complements the Priestess card pretty nicely. I really like this arrangement here. Now on the Lovers card, see, I've actually changed the red into a pink, which I thought was kind of fun as far as reflecting romance. I like how that came out, and again, toned down the yellows there for just kind of a gentler vibe all around. Chariot. Strength, I kept the traditional coloration on that one. This is the traditional color scheme on the Marseille Tarot with the yellow trees. And you can see how I really kind of changed that up. I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out. And again, as I was mentioning, many developers digitally will just fill the color, it seems, with a solid block color, and then you're missing the nuances of the woodblock grain. I've kept that because I've just changed the color. I'm not filling in areas with color like you would in another program where you just click an area and then fill that in with a certain color. No, I kept the wood block grain you can see running through there. When the Hermit approached and I was doing this card, I thought, well, you know, the Hermit's carrying a lantern, and people don't carry typically lit lanterns around in the daytime. So I made it nighttime and kind of popped that like an illumination quality there on the lantern, and I really think that's fun how that's come out. And you're going to see that again here in a minute with some other nighttime cards. Temperance card, La Temperance, is my favorite card of the Marseille Tarot, and I really didn't mess with the color scheme much in here. You can see this is the Converse card, and here's the Pierre Madenie. Just, again, toning down some of the coloration, and you can see how that woodblock grain is still coming through there. I'm pretty happy with how she came out, and kind of that twilightish background of just kind of after sunset or maybe before sunrise. So I like how that came out as well. Same thing with La Lune. Le Soleil. I wanted an orange sun, not a bright red sun. And I like the quality of how that came out with the orange. Very nice. Wheel of Fortune, just more organic color tones there. La Justice, I like this one. You know, when I think of justice or laying down the law, friends, you know, I think of the police, law and order, and, you know, the men and women in blue, so to speak. And that's what she is. She's got her sword and her scale of justice, and she's the woman in blue as compared to the traditional coloration. Judgment, I've gone with this emerald rays coming off the angel. Kind of different. Le Monde, toned down the red and adopted kind of more of those purplish hues that you saw in the Priestess card. Every suit of the miners, to me, has kind of a color vibe, and swords representing military applications, of course. This is almost a gunmetal or a Navy ship kind of coloration there with the military applications, or also on a more esoteric level of thought, plan, strategy. So I adopted a blue coloration for the swords suit. And you can see that, and I toned down the yellow with a nice kind of cream yellow here. Very happy with how the swords came out as compared to what you see here typically. So yeah, all of these are like that. You can see the coloration of the face cards being different with that adaptation of the blue. Oh, this has some good ghosting on this one. There's a lot of cool ghosting on these cards. Club suit is one of my favorite suits. It's an agricultural, earthy suit representing nature, agriculture, working the fields, industry, productivity, and green, to me, nature and those sort of things. And the clubs, again, these are not wands. That's from 1909 Tarot 8 deck. That's an occult deck that was a hybrid deck from 350 years later after the original tarot from Italy. You can check out my previous video on the nomenclature and the symbolism of how they're extremely different, the Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith. And I'm not going to go into any detail on that. Instead, I'll post a link to that video below as well, as far as the correct nomenclature of these cards. Green scheme and toning down the reds and yellows as mentioned before. And the club's staff there on the miners kept that green scheme with that nice pale yellow throughout. And again, those are all like that right on through. Pretty nice. The valet de baston or bâton, which literally means stick en français, and bastoni in Italian means stick. It is not a wand, friends. It is a stick, plain and simple. Nice earth tones, really captures the spirit of that suit. Queen came out real nice on this one. These are not pentacles, friends. These are coins, otherwise known as denier, which is an archaic term en français for coins, and in Italian, denare, money. It's nothing to do with pentacles or five-pointed stars or anything like that, okay? If you're interested in the original tarot, anyway. So you can see I changed the color scheme. I'm always toning down the coloration here, how I tone down all of the gold yellows on those cards there. compared that to the traditional Marseille blue coloration on the garments there instead of the brilliant red. Here we go. There's the good comparison there. Moving lastly to the cups suit, toning down the reds, basically keeping the color scheme there. I mean, that's another one that's just pretty good as it is. Just tone down those yellows into more of a kind of a brassy color, like of a chalice, a drinking chalice, as opposed to a brilliant yellow color, and also tone down the reds into more of a almost kind of like a wine red. I might call it a burgundy red. Just kind of show you there. There's the pips, the minors there. I'll show you comparison compared there to the king. You can see here the cover paper. Printed this out as well. Just monochrome. Please post your comments below if you're interested in this deck or any thoughts you have about it. I've been looking into ways to reproduce this deck, either locally or through other means. As those of you who develop cards know, it can be expensive to reproduce these on any sort of scale, and I'm just kind of wondering where to go from here with that. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about that. Till next time, friends.